And he said, please come and sit next to me. Just come and sit next to me. He loved him so much. And he asked him, where do you come from? He realized that his original land was Harran, which is in South Turkey today, North Iraq. He said to him, listen. And it was, by the way, deserted at that time. He said, listen, I will rebuild it for you and you'll become the emir of that area and I'll give you whatever you want. He said, I don't want it. I want the land of Ibrahim, Bilad Sham. I want to stay here. And I don't want your wealth and I don't want your money. I want you to give the Muslims their rights and leave this area and go back to your country. That's exactly what he said. Then Qazan brought them some food. And he offered everyone food. Obviously these scholars, no one could say no. Eat, eat. They started eating. Ibn Taymiyyah refused. He said, why? He said, this meat belongs to the Muslims. You stole it. You confiscated it. And the wood you used to cook this food is the right of the Muslims. How can I eat from that? How do you see it permissible to eat from that food? And then he basically, Qazan gave the word that I will not attack Damascus, according to your requests. And they left. As they were getting out, these scholars, they said to Ibn Taymiyyah, what kind of mad, crazy freak you are. You could have killed us. Wallahi, from now on, if you walk in a street, we'll walk on a different street. We don't want to see you. And they left him. Now on the way back, some bad bandits stopped them, and they took all their clothes and all their money, and they let them go back to Damascus naked. Ibn Taymiyyah, the bandits used to respect him, because he was a man. That's an example of a believer. Now I'll just mention one story by way of mention. In Jordan there was this Bedouin who died a few years ago. And unfortunately, he never prayed in his life at all. He was supposed to be Muslim. He never prayed in his life. And he had weapons. He was from the old tribal heritage. He probably was the last man of that kind. And one day he came to the masjid and there were some people like giving da'wah and staying in the masjid for a few days. It was in his area. It was Ramadan. He walks in the masjid, obviously not to pray, but because he had some people out there. He has a look at them, then he goes back home. 2 hours later, he comes with all his servants carrying food. He puts it in the masjid. It was dhuhr time. He says to the people, Aflihu. Aflihu means, come have some food. You are my guests. That's respect and that's generosity. They say, it's Ramadan. He said, no one says no to me. Eat food. He says, Ramadan. He said, okay. Leave the food there. He goes and he comes back with Kalashnikovs. You eat, you'll die. So that was exactly what Qazan did to these people, obviously, but without weapons. So what made Ibn Taymiyyah such a powerful personality? Yes, there is. Okay. What made Ibn Taymiyyah such a wonderful character? Why did he do that? Speaking about like material assets, material resources, he didn't have anything other than the rest. Where did that power come from? From faith. When you read the books of Ibn Taymiyyah, he talks about how the heart originates your actions, your attitudes, your feelings, your thoughts, everything. You realize, because the language of Ibn Taymiyyah is closer to us than the language of the 1st and 2nd centuries. He speaks in more detail. We can still relate to it. You realize that with Islam, you can have full self-discipline. You can have personal strength. You can control your emotions. You can control your self-esteem. No one can violate your rights. I'm telling you. Even if people kill you, destroy you, torture you, do whatever they want, they will be the prisoners and you will be the captive. Or you will be the one who captivates them. And that's true in Islam. Islam gives you that power. Wallahi, when you read the books of Ibn Taymiyyah, you have no doubt about this. And you can see that his life is a real manifestation about this. Now Ibn Taymiyyah, when they wanted to kill him, they conspired to kill him, to put him in prison, send him to exile, He said his famous statement, he said, what can my enemies do to me? What can my enemies do to me? You do whatever you want. They kill me, that's martyrdom. That's one of my ultimate goals. They want to put me in prison. You know, Ibn Taymiyyah was busy with people. He never had the time. Even Ibn al-Qayyim says that Ibn Taymiyyah used to run out in the desert, spend some time by himself because he just wants to remember Allah. He only found his heart in remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if they put me in prison, that's a state of seclusion and retreat I've always been seeking. So they're making it easy. It's a gift, you see? It's a gift. And if they send me to exile, if they send me to Cyprus, I would call its people to Islam, and by the permission of Allah, they would accept Islam. You know, they put Ibn Taymiyyah in prison, and guess what? The criminals turned into scholars. Criminals turned into scholars. And they started to have a problem, because prisons were packed. Every time it was time for someone to release and go out of prison, they'd say, no, I stay with Ibn Taymiyyah. You see what kind of person he was? It shows, when you read his books, you realize that Islam transformed this man. So what do you think about the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman and Ali and others? They were far greater than Ibn Taymiyyah. Big time. But it's just we're unable to get that personal touch, that deep understanding of their exact words and expression of their knowledge. Now let me ask the question. Who is the most knowledgeable among the companions? Can I get, the one who has answers, please put your hand up. I understand. I just want to see how many people know. Who's the most knowledgeable? 2 or 3 companions. Okay, so I'll give you some wiggle room. Okay, you were the first one. Abu Bakr. Anyone has a different opinion? Ibn Mas'ud. Ibn Abbas. Who else? Mu'adh ibn Jabal. Abu Bakr. طيب. Not really. No. Ali ibn Abi Talib. Okay. Ibn Mas'ud was the student of who? Umar ibn Khattab. Ibn Abbas was the student of Umar ibn Khattab. No, the most knowledgeable is Abu Bakr, no doubt. Second comes Umar. Second comes Umar. Okay, now the question is, when you read fiqh and read about any fiqh issue, do you find anything from Abu Bakr or Umar ibn Khattab? Any fiqh opinion? Do you find anything? Anyone who knows Arabic and reads, is very familiar with the books of fiqh? It's almost non-existent. The fiqh opinions from Umar ibn Khattab could be 3 or 4, reported in all the books of fiqh. Why is this? Well, he's the most knowledgeable, at least second most knowledgeable. Abu Bakr, there's almost no fiqh opinion from him, almost. Why is that? Because the knowledge was present in their conduct, in their life. And they kept things as they were at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. And that's the best type of knowledge. Knowledge that controls the environment so it doesn't change. By the time of Uthman ibn Affan, things change. This is why Ibn Abbas had to improvise, had to speak, because the world changed. But Umar ibn Khattab and Abu Bakr maintained things, how everything was executed, everything was done. Transactions, family affairs, social affairs, everything, although he created many new things, like Baytul Mal, like the welfare. Do you know Muslims used to get welfare at that time? Whenever a person, Umar al-Khattab was one day walking at night, which is a very famous story, and he came across this house where a woman was like screaming, and she was in labor. Umar al-Khattab realized, knocked on the door, her husband doesn't have any food, anything to give to help his wife in her labor. So Umar al-Khattab said to him, okay, you stay here. He brought Hafsa, his daughter, the wife of the Prophet ﷺ, and he brought some money, and he brought some food, and he brought some blankets, and he brought some water, and he himself cooked for that family. He cooked for that family, and his wife, his wife, and he brought his wife. His wife helped that woman give birth. And then, as the boy was born, Umar al-Khattab commanded the Harisu Bayt al-Mal, or Qa'imu Bayt al-Mal, the one who's responsible for the treasury, to allocate a monthly wage for that child, the welfare. But you don't take it with begging, it comes to you. That was in the time of Umar al-Khattab. Yet, you don't see any fiqh, hardly, just a few actually, fiqh opinions from Umar al-Khattab. Why? Because it was about knowledge. Knowledge was about action. It translated into action, so they didn't need to speak it. It was lived by people. So that's the beauty. So when we talk about this is exactly the statement of Ibn al-Qayyim when he said, and if you were to tell the people about the ahwal of as-salaf, about the conditions and the actions of the early generations, they would look down upon them because they just can't relate to them. They don't understand them. They see them as nothing. The problem is the language barrier. So Islam, now I will start just with what arrived at, which I spoke about on Saturday, but I'll approach it from a different angle. Identity. The basic human level of existence is identity. Everything in life goes back to identity. Now forget about what psychologists say. They have different theories, but if you put them to the test, they're still impractical. Identity can only be found in the Quran. Can only be found in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will explain it now. Because those who had trouble understanding everything on Saturday, inshallah, today will be easy. Those who attend for the first time, inshallah, will find it accessible. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create us? To worship Him. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Okay, if there was no worship, would there be humans? We were created for the sake of worship. If there's no worship, there's no humans. So that's what we are. That's what we are. If there's no worship, there would be no humans. Humans would be non-existent. So human means what? Worship. And that's what humans do. There are people who call themselves, they have no religion. Fallacy. Fiction. Semantics. Humans worship by nature. By default, humans worship. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Now, if there was no worship, there would be no human. What does that mean? Our essence is worship. And that's our identity. Your identity is what you worship. Most people trace their identity to color, complexion, culture, language. Be sure if you trace back your identity to color and physical aspects of your existence, then be sure that a great part of your aqidah revolves around, in a broader sense, worshipping your body. You live for your body, but you don't realize. And that's what Uncle was talking about. We believe in Allah and the Messenger, but these are put on this side. They're put on the closet. They're not functional. They're not functional. They're not giving results. Because we have other set of beliefs with us, which are subtle, we don't realize. If a person truly believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and reaches at least al-iman al-wajib, a level of iman that is required by every Muslim to be saved from the hellfire, they would start to disengage from all aspects of life like body. This is why when the companions were tortured, were killed, it didn't make any difference. Imagine a person, and death was not like you were shot from a distance, you don't see who shot you, or you don't see the threats. It's a sword waving over your head, and you see it as it cuts through your body. How could they be so strong and resilient and steadfast even when they were cut into pieces? They disengaged from their bodies because their identity did not revolve around body. It revolved around what? Worship. Now this is what I inshallah will try to explain as well more. So if we are created for worship, if there was no worship, there would be no human beings. What does worship mean? What's the essence of worship? Those who were present on Saturday, what's the essence of worship? Love. The essence of worship is love. Obviously love is an Arabic word, al-hub, okay? There's a problem with translating it into love because, and this clarifies the point I said. Language is not a word and meaning. There's a lot of cultural aspects